When I've said what I'm about to say to EX3 Matters members, I tend to get some significant pushback, but I stand by what I say. Selling our consulting services are one of those things that is really quite simple, but it's not easy. The process of getting in front of somebody, asking good, solid, open-ended questions, adapting to their style, getting a conversation going, listening and linking, not telling them what all we can do. Listen, take notes, and then from those notes, develop our proposal in their words. I want to take us through what has worked extraordinarily well for us as we've developed our proposals and implemented these with clients around the world. This is one of those things that if you practice and you follow this methodology, you're going to find an increased acceptance of your proposal. Not a 1 in 10 situation, more like an 8 in 10 close ratio once you gain some experience and confidence writing and presenting proposals. Always, 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 I am not one to speak in absolutes. I'll give you a little bit of wiggle room on some of these. Not much, though. Always put our proposal in writing. I once had a gentleman come to my house to build an addition. He gave me a proposal by telling me everything's included and gave me a number. How do I know what everything is? It has to be in writing because it outlines what we're doing. It outlines what's going to be happening over time. It helps overcome any objections that may come our way. And it allows us to begin the closing process of gaining the new client. Always put it in writing. Always present it in person. Here's one where I will give a little bit of wiggle room if it's geographically a challenge to put this out in front of somebody. Except I would tell you to leverage technology. One way of doing this for someone who may be across the country is to present your proposal in person via some technological tool like GoToMeeting. A GoToMeeting solution allows you to present your proposal at your pace and you're in control of the documents while still being able to communicate and dialogue with the person that you're giving it to. Always, always start at the beginning of the entire sales process when you're delivering your proposal. You're going to see in a moment how we talk about the executive summary. Always start at the beginning. Bring those folks back up right today to where you were in the previous weeks as you were developing your sales case. Do not assume these folks are going to be right on that same page when time has elapsed from your last meeting to this meeting. You must start at the beginning. And always be prepared for guests. This is one of those situations where you plan for the worst and you hope for the best. Even if you ask your prospective client who else is going to be attending and they tell you no one, or they tell you this one person, always expect more than what they tell you. Being prepared allows you to be forearmed and not thrown off your game at this very critical juncture of gaining a new client. The executive summary we have found to be one of those elements that sets us apart and has proven to be extraordinarily beneficial for us to recapture to our client that we know exactly what they're up against. Take a look in the consultant's approach and pull up the information on writing proposals to get examples of an executive summary. It must be in their words. This allows us to start at the beginning of the sales call, brings everybody up to speed, including the prospect and any guests that may be on board. One critical point here, one tip is that when you are done presenting that executive summary, take a moment and ask them, is there anything else? Has anything changed since our last conversation? And if they give you something, write it down. Make sure that you capture it, no matter who says it, but especially if one of the guests in the room tell you something else, be sure to write that down and capture it in your proposal. To avoid scope creep, have the deliverables spelled out. If there are additional items that you may be addressing, but not necessarily in this proposal, at the end of your deliverables, one of the things that we do is we put a line that says, possible next steps not included in this proposal, and we outline them there. That allows for us to minimize scope creep, and when one of those tactics pops up for us to address, we can go back to the proposal and point out that we had mentioned how that would be additional. The deliverable page should be the step-by-step process that shows what you are going to be delivering. You can go to the download and see some sample proposals and the deliverables as we've outlined them for some of our proposals. When you're presenting the pricing page, practice beforehand, especially if you're new at sales, asking for the sale. This is where we begin to see people stand down, and here's where you need to stand tall. You are worth this if you can drive the result outlined in your proposal. What we have found, client after client and survey after survey that we've done, is clients will not hire consultants if their pricing is too low. They figure the value is not there. Clients will not hire consultants if they believe you're only giving them part of a solution so that you can charge more for the rest of the solution. And clients will not hire consultants if you back down too quickly from your pricing and cannot get into a good dialogue and a good conversation of how you develop that pricing along the way. Do not back down. When people ask you about the price, ask more open-ended questions to determine exactly what their questions are around the pricing. A tip that we have used is using a preliminary proposal. We make sure on the front cover we call it a preliminary proposal, and we take them through the exact same steps. Most times we do not include a pricing page in the preliminary proposal. What we're trying to do is we are trying to see if we're on target with our deliverables and the sequence of the deliverables. Knowing what to do is one thing. Knowing the sequence of how to do it is another. Presenting our solution is always in person. Always in person. We've included an article for you both in your Taking a Consultant's Approach and in your materials for training for EX3 Matters on presenting a proposal. At this stage of the process, you've worked hard to get in front of these folks. You've worked hard to understand what their needs are. You've worked hard to put the proposal together. Presenting it is not a time to leave up to chance or to email it to them and assume they can understand. Leverage your technology. Leverage what's available to do it. Putting together a proposal is both art and science. Pricing it is both art and science. Always make sure it's in writing to protect you and to protect your client. Presenting it in person allows you to dialogue. It allows you to read body language. It allows you to overcome objections. Never go into a sales call and start at the end. always start at the beginning and bring them up to speed, and always be prepared to do that for guests if and when they are called into a sales presentation unannounced. You've come a long way at this point. You have made the sales call, you've conducted the open-ended conversation, you've created some dialogue, you've formulated some solutions. The proposal ends up being a proof source for doing business with you, making sure that it represents you both professionally and that it represents what you're going to do and how you're going to do it is absolutely critical. One final point: do not fall victim to false humility. If you've priced this correctly and your value added is in fact going to drive results for your client, you are worth the amount of money that you're asking your client to pay for all of your years of R&D and all of your knowledge capital.